Welcome to the Recovery Lab podcast. We're glad you were able to join us. Recovery Lab hopes to destigmatize addiction and normalize recovery.
Our platform provides an avenue to share the many stories of those that have recovered from addiction, providing for the listener the most basic antidote to addiction. Hope.
All right, everybody, we're back. This is episode number 44 of the Recovery Lab podcast series. I'm Drew Hassan.
I'm Daniel Anderson.
We are the Recovery Lab, episode 44.
44. How about that, huh?
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Incredible.
That's good stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Take it away.
Well, okay, so this individual that we have joining us today, his name is Jeff Wall. I've had a professional relationship with him, with his car dealership, or not car dealership, his car
Aftermarket.
his repair shop, auto repair shop. And just because it's convenient, you were friends with Jimbo Wheat, and so I used to hang out at Jimbo's shop all the time, and he always spoke very highly of you. So when he shut down his shop, I just started bringing things to you, and every time that I've had any sort of interaction with you or Tire Depot, it's been a positive experience. So, and then I found out that you were also in recovery, and I was like, oh boy, I tell you what, this guy's something else. He's got everything going on for him right now, and he's a good person. He's not a piece of crap. So when you post all the time on Facebook, and I love your posts about the yoga and bettering yourself. So it was a natural fit for me to try to get you on the podcast. And we are so incredibly grateful for you for taking the time to come and hang out with us. We're super grateful. So what I would love to do is talk about, just briefly, maybe 5-10 minutes, about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, just so we can so the listeners and all of us can all be on the same page. And then we'll hop into a little bit more in-depth conversation and talk about what exactly makes Jeff makes Jeff the person that you are. But let's get just a quick, we don't want to harbor necessarily on the gore and all the nasty details. I mean, you're in recovery. That's pretty good indicator that the life you had before sobriety was pretty tragic and not healthy. So we're all on the same page about that. But it would help for the listener and viewer to be able to connect with you a little bit more, and perhaps have this conversation more rewarding for them if they could connect and know a little bit about your past before we hop into the conversation.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So I'm 60 years old. Matter of fact, I'm turning 61 this year. I started drinking at age 15 with my high school buddies. And I will tell you, from the very moment I started, from the first time I drank alcohol, I drank to excess. I've never known any other way. And like I said, alcohol was introduced into my life at age 15. And at any rate, so I've had a excessive relationship with alcohol, or I did have, from the very beginning. I stopped drinking at age 27. So I oftentimes reflect and say that in 12 years, from age 15 to age 27, I drank a lifetime's worth. Right. I really did. And so
that's 34 years, right?
I have 34 years of sobriety. That's correct. And so just I guess a brief rundown. Alcohol definitely caused a lot of problems in my life. I started to get in trouble. I'm going to say legal trouble with alcohol as a teenager. It started to cause some problems, but I recall that the sheriff or the police or whoever I encountered prior to age 18 were probably as gentle as they should be with juvenile. But I will tell you, after 18, they just don't play around anymore. It becomes very serious, and definitely resulted in some arrests and whatnot. And by age 27, it had just gotten serious enough that they were done playing with me, and it kind of came to an ultimatum of this has to stop, or you're going to jail. And so I went to a recovery program, and I will say I somewhat voluntarily did that, and the judge frankly did order me to do it, but honestly it was my lawyer's urging to allow, instead of just sentence me to jail, which would have obviously cost me my job, quite possibly my career, and perhaps even my marriage. I'd only been married a year and a half at that time, so it was really a big to do when I got arrested. I was a printing plant manager at the time. I had 75 employees. It was quite frankly a big scandal. And but my lawyer urged the judge before sentencing me to allow me to go to a state-run outpatient treatment program, 2 nights a week, 3 hours a night for 6 months. So if you do the math on that, it's 300 some hours. So it was outpatient, and I was still working, but I spent more than 300 hours in this program. And I will tell you, first off, going into the program, I had become very tired. I mean, I definitely had an addictive relationship with alcohol. I always drank to excess. Early on that just meant getting drunk. A little bit later, that meant sometimes going as far as blackouts and not remembering what happened the next day. So it was a problem that was getting progressively worse and causing more and more problems in my life. But by the time I entered that program, I fully embraced the idea that I really want to stop drinking. It's caused enough problems. I'm done, but I don't know if I know how to. And so I say all that to say I really embraced the program. I didn't go in kicking and screaming and fighting. I went in and embraced it and said, I need to stop drinking. One of the
did you hear about the program? I take it this was a 12-step program that you're referring to?
It was a 12-step program. It was a state agency.
Okay, so you were primed from this outpatient rehab about what AA is all about, or
yes, without question. It was an on-ramp to AA. They dovetailed or worked directly with and recommended AA programs. In fact, oftentimes specifically ordered patients sometimes to attend those. I don't recall the exact circumstance, but no, without question, a 12-step program, and definitely involved.
Was that here in Mississippi?
It was. And
is that facility still operating?
It is. And I don't know that the counselors are still there, but I just have to give them credit. They really, really cared about the people that came in there. And I will tell you, not everybody came out of there successful. I watched, as I said, more than 300 hours over 6 months. I watched a lot of people fail out of that program. The carnage in their lives, in their household, in their lives, the lives of these people that I saw was really heartbreaking. It drove home how damaging drugs and alcohol are to
Did
people.
you only drink, or did you have?
I did experiment with recreational drugs, but alcohol without question was my drug of choice. There's no doubt about that.
I don't understand you people, but I know I sense that y'all are out there.
Well, when I will tell you another story to jump to the subject, because you just hit on something funny. When I was a teenager, I don't know exactly how old, but maybe 17 or 18 years old, I was with one of my best friends, and we were having this conversation. He just was expounding on how much he loved marijuana. Oh, I just love the way it makes me feel. And I said, you know what? I really don't. It makes me nervous. But boy, you give me some old granddad whiskey now. And we were naming our drugs of choice is what we were doing. We were sitting there expounding on our drugs of choice.
The first time I smoked pot, I thought, why does anybody drink?
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I loved it. 100%.
Well, it just made me uninhibited is what it did. The alcohol I'm talking about.
Yeah.
In a way that marijuana did not. It actually made me a little bit nervous, where alcohol is like, I could say what I thought and do what I wanted. And I loved that feeling. And the problem is I did. And that's what kept getting me in trouble. So back to this treatment program, to not go to labor on too long, but I just want to give these guys credit for credit where credit's due. One of the counselors, when I first got there, of course, they challenged me. They know these people are coming in from court, and all they want to do is get out from underneath a sentence, right? the judge made it clear, I'm going to send you to this program. We're going to have a conversation when you get back, and we're going to decide if you're going to jail or not. So he made it pretty clear. Like the stakes were fairly high. The stakes were real high. But when I got to the program, as I said, I embraced it. And one of the counselors asked me, so do you want to quit drinking, or do you just want to do what you have to do to get out of trouble?
Yeah.
And I said, no, I really want to quit drinking. He said, well, prove it. I said, tell me what I need to do, because I want to quit drinking, but I'm not sure I know how to. He said, okay, here's what you do. He said, do you believe in God? And I said, I do. He said, okay, pray to your God to remove your desire to drink, and then do the work in this program. I said, I'll do that.
Sounds like you were blessed with the gift of desperation at that point.
That's right. I was. And you know, in AA, they called me a high bottom drunk because I didn't lose everything I had. I was just threatened with the loss of everything I had.
That doesn't matter.
That was enough. But they called me a high bottom drunk anyways. You know, Jeff didn't lose everything. I got to keep my job. I didn't. And I'm going to tell you, for 6 months, I didn't know what the judge was going to do. He made it clear that I was looking at a sentence that would have cost me my job, and again, probably my career. But nonetheless, I did the work in the program. But here's the cool thing. I did pray to God to remove my desire to drink, and I started working the program. And again, the program was really life-changing. That was the best thing that ever happened to me. It truly was. And I was aware of that while I was in there. But the coolest thing was, just a few weeks, I don't know how many weeks, but a few weeks into the program, I realized I really don't want to drink anymore. Like, my desire to drink is gone.
Right.
And I used to drink compulsively. I mean, really drink compulsively. And it's 34 years later, and there hasn't been one single time in 34 years that I've had a desire to drink. Like, I pray to God to remove my desire to drink. It was removed. It's still removed. How about that?
It's pretty
Some
incredible.
people call that a miracle.
I would absolutely.
I call it a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. I don't flaunt that or anything like that, but in 34 years, there has not been one single occasion. And believe me, I've had hardships and the kind of things that drive people back to drinking to try and cover up their pain. The loss of my dad, and quite a number of things. Not one of them has made me think, I need to go drink because that might make me feel better. I know very well, it will only make things worse.
And I feel it's important to clarify, because we have a lot of folks that listen and watch this program that are in early sobriety. So when we say we don't think about drugs and alcohol, the possibility of the thought crossing your mind, oh, I should drink, that's going to happen. That's a possibility that it happens, even with years and years of sobriety. The difference is, today we have enough information to be able to completely disregard that thought as something that's just fleeting. It's not something we obsess about. It's not something that we harp on. It's just, oh yeah, I used to do that. Good thing I know exactly what that's going to lead to if I entertain that thought whatsoever, and then move on. Right. But that technically is, it technically is a thought about drinking and using, but today we don't focus on that. We can
play the tape through.
We can play the tape through, and we don't harp. So if you're in early sobriety or long-term sobriety or wherever you're at, and you do have a thought about drinking or using, as long as you don't focus on that and harp on that and engage with that thought, that it's completely normal. We are alcoholics and addicts, and we're going to think about drugs and alcohol from time to time. But today we have the information to be able to not harp on that and dive into that. So if you have those thoughts, don't beat up on yourself. Don't think, oh, well, I'm not doing the program right because I'm thinking about drinking. No, it's very possible to have those. It's very possible to have using dreams. It's very possible to think about that. But today we have the information to not go down that road, and we've played the tape through. So
it sounds like you went through something kind of like an early version of drug court, really. I mean,
I think so. And I don't know that there wasn't anything established like that. I think my lawyer paid the guy a lot of money, but I think he really had my best interest in heart. And the judge, he didn't come across to me as a compassionate guy, believe me. Believe me, he was ready to drop the hammer on me. On the other hand, he did right by me. He gave me the opportunity to go take 6 months and prove that you're that you're serious about this. And I came back and showed him
Judges
that
like a comeback story.
I came back and showed him that I meant what I said, that I'm done. I'm really done. I don't want to go through this again. So, and he had mercy on me. And you know, so what's so cool, I have now 34 years of sobriety, and I've had an opportunity for, I have a lot of history now that I can look back on and see the difference in my life from drinking to sober, and all of the I'm going to use a term here that comes from my yoga training, but karma that's developed out of that. So one of the things I learned in this yoga teacher training that I just did is a lot deeper meaning. I know everybody knows the word karma. It's a Sanskrit word that goes back about 3,000 years. And I always thought of karma as meaning, you know, that thing that will bite you on the ass if you do something this esoteric, universal, wispy thing. Reckoning that'll come bite you on the ass when you do something bad. It's a lot deeper than that. Karma is cause and effect. Karma is the response to your actions. So my actions in my drinking days had effects that were inescapable. They caused me lots and lots of problems. I got sober and changed the course of my life. And in 34 years, the positive effects of karma, because there's positive just like there's negative. There's actions, there's a response that comes from your actions that cause an effect. And it's just been remarkable what's happened in 34 years, how much positive karma has invaded my life. You know?
Well, you know, the Bible talks often about reaping what you sow.
Exact same concept.
You know, if you sow discord, I mean, the opposite must then be true if you sow well-being. And I mean, implicit in that idea is the fact that you will come to answer for this at a later date. I mean, sowing means to plant. And
precisely. It is literally the same concept. Yeah, the biblical concept is you reap what you sow. In modern parlance, what goes around comes around. Yeah. So karma is a single word that describes that thing. And I'm a true believer now, especially I look back over 45 years of my life, from age 15 when I started drinking, and then 27 when I stopped, and then 34 years since then. It's just remarkable. It's remarkable.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah. So what I love more than anything in this world is positivity. And it sounds as though you have been investing positive things into this universe for 34 years. So I really want to talk about some of those positive things. One of the things that I love more than anything is the fact that you are a pilot, and you use that pilot's license to do some pretty incredible things. So first thing I want to ask is, when did you get your pilot's license? How did you get involved in that? And then how did you get involved with the amazing work that you do with Pilots for Paws, and then
Angel Flight Soars?
Angel Flight Soars. How did that come about? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I'm an Air Force brat. I grew up on military bases around the world. I grew up around airplanes. My dad was not a pilot, but we did live on Air Force bases. He ran entertainment facilities. And so I was around planes and fascinated all my life. I will tell you, I met a lot of Air Force pilots, and these are some of the best pilots in the world. And it did not dawn on me that was a realistic path for me, even though I had a great interest in it. But when I was in my 40s, so this is 14 years ago, when I was in my 40s, just the bug to work on a pilot's license just bit me. It was not a great time in our household financially, but I went to Cynthia and said, my wife, and said, this is something I really want to do. It's something I've been thinking about for years, but it occurs to me that if I'm going to do this, I need to do this, because I will. For people who don't know, if you earn a pilot's license, so long as you don't do something stupid and get it revoked, your pilot's license is forever. But what's not forever is your medical certificate. So you do have to have a medical certificate to fly. Sooner or later, something is going to happen to cause you to not be legal to fly anymore. It could be a heart event, or it could be a dementia, or a mental degradation, or kidney stones or cancer or something. But sooner or later, you can't fly anymore. Even if you have a pilot's license, sooner or later, you're not legal to fly because you don't have a medical. And so I told her, this is something that's been in the back of my mind. I want to start working on this. And this is not something I can wait to do until I retire, like, wait till 65 and then I'll get a license and fly. It doesn't work that way. At some point, you just can't fly anymore and you need the experience. And so she agreed. And again, it wasn't a great time in our household. It was kind of, that was around the recession of 2008, if you recall. So it was a little bit of a scary time with our business and our household, but nonetheless, I'd kind of dove in and started flying then. And as somebody who wasn't going to school, now there's a path for people who are going to basically go to college to learn to fly and kind of take the professional route. But there's also another path that is kind of self-study where you work with an instructor and complete a bunch of milestones.
Did you go here in Madison?
I did Madison Flyers. And then up to the point to where you take a written exam, an FAA proctored written exam, and then you do an oral examination with an FAA examiner, and then you go fly. That's called a check ride. The oral exam and the actual flight demonstration of your skills is called a check ride. One of the most terrifying things you could ever possibly do. Seriously, it is. It's very, very scary. But nonetheless, so long story short, 14 years ago, I start flying. I'm working toward that. I do succeed in earning my pilot's license.
60 hours? 60
so
initially?
minimum 40 hours of flying,
okay,
and 40 hours of ground school plus the study for the exam. But I will tell you, nobody's ready in 40 hours. Most people, it's more like 75 hours of flying and plus the ground school. I mean, depends on how much you dive in with both feet. But
right.
But yeah. So I get I'm flying with my instructor and training, and I do my check ride and I earn my pilot's license. And they call that, by the way, a license. The FAA calls it a license to learn, because, even though you've had to study and do all that stuff, you still are you don't hardly know crap when you first get your license. You have a lot of learning to do. The license to learn, and the pilot sarcastically, morbidly call it in the pilot community, license to kill yourself, meaning it's legal. You can go take the plane and kill yourself once you get your license. But so from there, I jump straight in to working on an instrument rating. And so that's another process of flying with an instructor and training and studying. And the instrument rating is just lots of math and numerical and navigation, and just it's pretty heavy duty. So I'm flying with my instructor and training and flying and training and flying and training with an instructor. And I do my check ride, pass my instrument. That's probably the most challenging rating to get, but pass my instrument. And then I'm like, all right, what do I do now? Right. So like literally, I've been studying and training, and now I'm done. I got my pilot's license. I got my instrument rating. Like, where am I going to go?
Right.
So I'm at the store and I'm having this conversation, like, oh, I'm done with the training, get past my instrument rating, but not sure how many vacations are $100. They call them $100 hamburgers. You jump in the plane and go to New Orleans. It's not $100. Now it's $1,000 hamburger. But nonetheless, how many times can you just jump in the plane and go get to Memphis or New Orleans or wherever and get lunch? Until that gets old. And there's a limited number of vacations you can take. And so at any rate, I kind of needed a reason and a place to fly to. And I'm at the store having this conversation with one of my customers, and she says, Jeff, there is this great program called Pilots and Paws. Will you please look into it? There's such a need. So they organize flights for rescue animals around the country, and they need to go everywhere. So the website is pilots.paws.org. It's basically a big smart clearinghouse for rescue transport. So I go home and I look at this. You can go to the website and register for free. There's no charge for anything. You don't have to be a pilot. Matter of fact, most of the people registered are not. They're rescues. Probably 1/3 pilots and 2/3 non-pilots that are registered there. But there's animals moving all over the country all the time. And you can just sign up and say, hey, I'll take this flight. And so the day after I got my instrument rating, like the next day after I get my check ride, I agreed to fly a puppy for a rescue in Monroe, Louisiana to Columbus, Georgia. And the weather was not particularly good. Of course, that's what the instrument rating is for, is to fly in low visibility conditions. But because the weather was so crappy and I was a brand new pilot, I asked my instructor if he would go with me, which was a good thing to do, because the weather really was low. So we took off. He said, yeah, sure, I'll go. So we take off from Jackson. We fly. We're in a Cessna 182. We fly to Monroe, Louisiana. We pick up this rescue lady, pick up a little puppy. And then,
what's the flight time on that?
An hour and 15 minutes or something like that. About an hour there. And then we go to Columbus, Georgia, and that was a good 2.5 or 3 hour flight. And then drop the puppy off at a rescue there, and then from Columbus, Georgia, back to Madison. So going into Louisiana, ceilings were low, and I had to shoot an instrument approach to land there, which is what I just trained for my instrument rating for, right? So low approach, real world experience, low approach in Louisiana. We meet this lady, pick the dog up, fly to South Georgia, shoot an instrument approach down there because the ceilings are low, drop the dog off, fly back home. The ceilings are so low we can't even land at Madison. We have to divert to Jackson. I've shot all the way down to minimums, which is 200 feet above the ground. Like my first day with my instrument rating, I'm flying down all the way to minimums. I did have my instructor with me, again, good thing. But it just dawned on me, like, what great experience this was. So I did that. You do it as a volunteer. The transportation is free. The pilot is providing those resources. The pilot would pay for the fuel and the time. But it's a deductible expense. It's a charitable expense. And obviously the rescue's benefit is that they get the animal transported free. So you're kind of, solving a problem. But I also recognized immediately, like, this was excellent training for me. That was a real world flight. I had a reason to go to some airports that I didn't have any reason to go to. I shot instrument approaches and got more experience. Well, I have 2,000 hours of flight time now. I've built almost all my experience doing volunteer work like that. So after a few hundred hours, I stepped up from animals. None of them ever complained about my landings.
Right.
Just kidding. Yeah. I never one time heard a dog complain about my landings. At any rate, so I decided to see about flying humans. And so I registered with an organization in Atlanta called Angel Flight Soars. We fly for Angel Flight Soars. We fly ambulatory medical patients. So we're not air ambulance service. This is not people that are carrying IV bags or anything. It's usually going to be like a cancer patient or burn patient has multiple doctor visits they have to go to that would be a hardship for them. So a reason why they medically it's better for them to fly that way, or they live in a small town and it's just a challenge to get 2 states away to go see a cancer doctor or a burn doctor or whatever. So that's what Angel Flight Soars coordinates those. They do about 4,000 flights a year. I started flying missions for them, and for 2 or 3 years, I probably flew 10 or 12 missions a year for Angel Flight Soars. And then I had occasion to fly to their headquarters and drop a patient off that was making a 2-leg. I flew the first leg and dropped the patient at PDK, a tertiary airport in Atlanta Metro, and met the staff there, which is where they operate. And my buy-in for this charity just went way up once I met the staff. Like, they are the real deal. They really care about their patients. It's a staff of 9. It's a no-frills operation. They live and die on donations, corporate and private, and nobody gets charged anything. So there's 9 people coordinating 4,000 flights a year for medical people, not charging anybody anything, completely getting by on donations. And they love their pilots, and they do such a great job. I'm just very, very proud to support that organization. So over the years, I've done about 100 missions for them, and I intend to do more. They're my favorite charity, angelflightsoars.org, if you want to look them up. Great organization. Yeah. And so again, like I built my pilot's experience on that. And also I got a story. I don't want to cut you off.
No. I was just going to say that, before we leave, text me those email address, and I'll add them to our website.
Okay, sounds good. So I got a cool story about an epiphany I had while I was flying one of those missions. I flew a family to Dallas, Texas for this young man to have surgery, abdominal surgery.
Love Field or DFW?
Love Field. Yep. And so it happened to be a Friday. It was an unusual day for me to fly, and I was taking the whole family. I was flying this Bonanza that I'm partners in, a A36 Beach Bonanza. That's the one that's headquartered at Madison. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, and you've probably seen on Facebook, but a lot of times I'll take Facebook friends or co-pilots or somebody when I'm flying rescue animals, I call them pup wranglers. So I carry somebody with me to kind of help me manage the dogs. I almost always carry somebody with me. Well, this happened to be a flight that I didn't have room to take anybody with me because I was flying the whole family over there. They had their luggage, and it was a husband, a wife, and a mother, and luggage for 3 plus me, and I just didn't have room room for another person to go on this trip. And so after I dropped them off in Dallas, I'm flying home by myself, deadheading. A little bit unusual. Usually I would be chatting with somebody, but I had a little bit over 2 hour trip back from Dallas at night in the dark on Friday by myself, and just had time to ponder. And I always come back from these missions. Angel Flight missions are very cool because I come back from every single one of them with a renewed sense of appreciation, thankfulness for my health. I'm flying people with very serious medical conditions. To a person, they're all positive and thankful, and it's just remarkable that they can be in such a good frame of mind. Every single one be in such a good frame of mind in the face of such dire medical circumstances. Dire enough that 5 of my passengers have succumbed to their illnesses. I've lost 5 of them. Of the 100. But anyway, I'm flying back from this one by myself, and I recall I was over Longview, Texas at night, and you could see the stars. I'm at 9,000 feet. I got a tailwind. I mean, it's just perfect. And I just was overcome with appreciation for how fortunate, just how lucky I am. This wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gotten sober. Right. All of the good stuff in my life wouldn't have happened. And it just kind of settled on me how lucky I am that I did get sober, that I did get a pilot's license, that my wife supports me flying this. I wouldn't be able to do this if she didn't support me. All the things that had to fall in place, from my dad and my family, and as I told you, growing up on the military bases, to my exposure to airplanes, to the work that I did to pilot's license, and honestly, to have the financial wherewithal to do that, I really had to be self-employed and have my business. In order to have my business, I had to have the experience I had in the printing industry, managing printing plants before that. And I've kind of thought back over all the years and all the things that have happened in my life. And this is kind of back to the karma that I was talking about earlier. All those things put together were required for me to get to the point where I was at in my airplane, flying home. And I just realized, like, this is not an accident. This isn't an accident. This is actually my mission field. I'm sitting in it. It's my airplane and my pilot's license. God gave me that. And I feel like it's my job to do something, to give back. That's what I'm supposed to do. And another, the cool thing is my wife, again, supports me in that. I don't think, if she didn't get it, that was my calling, that was my thing to do, I just don't think it would work. I don't think you could have a battle in your household where your wife didn't want you flying airplanes, but you wanted to fly it just wouldn't work. So all those things had to happen, and it just dawned on me that my mission field's my airplane. And my pilot's license.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. The effects of compound interest of good deeds.
Right. Karma. 34 years of positive karma have made it's just made for an amazing life.
I'll say one thing that's remarkable about your mindset is how, in the calculus of cause and effect, how you trace everything back to sobriety, and how easy it is for us to forget that that's really the beginning. That really is the foundation for anything we can accomplish.
No doubt. I just, all of the good things that have happened in my life, I'm convinced wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gotten sober. I'm just convinced. It would have been.
Well, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
And this is a cool one that I don't bring up too often, but I'll bring this up with y'all. I have done some calculations. So you realize I did smoke cigarettes at the time too. So I stopped drinking and smoking 34 years ago. And I've done a few calculations, probably very conservative, on how much money I've saved.
Oh, yeah.
34 years of not smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol. And the conservative numbers are about $250,000.
Yeah.
And I swear I think it's more than that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's airplane money. It's airplane money. You realize I'm buying airplanes. I'm buying airplanes with the money that I didn't spend on alcohol and cigarettes.
Right.
Nice airplanes, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So,
that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so we also have Blizzard.
Yeah.
So I want to
Yes.
talk a little bit about Blizzard because people love pets and people love pets that are doing incredible things. So tell us a little bit how You got Blizzard set up to be a therapy dog, and what exactly you guys do to help the community in our area with Blizzard and that
Sure.
incredible pet there.
Thank you. Yeah, he's great. So Blizzard is a white Swiss Shepherd, Berger Blanc Swiss, and he is a rescue. And I got him.
Is he really?
Oh yeah, he's directly because of Pilots and Paws. So a friend that I flew rescue missions for that lives outside of Nashville. Cynthia and I had recently lost a Pomeranian that was a rescue that we got locally at Marl, and we're just kind of smarting a little bit from losing a pet, and you know how it is, households empty and whatnot. And so a few close people knew, I guess through Facebook, people that I knew through Facebook knew that we had lost a pet, and it was, we're considering getting another pet. And somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have this dog that I'm trying to rehome for a young lady in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, outside of Nashville." And it's a white Swiss Shepherd. I had never heard.
Dog is gorgeous.
I had never heard of the breed. White Swiss. I had to look them up. White Swiss Shepherd. So they're an offshoot. They were kicked out of the German Shepherd breed standard in the 30s because they back then didn't have DNA tests, and they declared them albino. So they almost exterminated the white coat breeds. So there's now, and all German Shepherds, you may know, have a recessive white coat gene. When the breed was developed, the maternal grandfather of the original German Shepherd was a white herding shepherd, and so these white coat variants will pop up occasionally in the litters. And the original developer, these were working dogs. He didn't care what color they were. The original developer was a German infantryman. He didn't care what color they were. But in the 30s, they got kind of highfalutin and decided that these were albinos and therefore inferior, and they should not be allowed in the breed standard. Well, again, they almost exterminated the white coats, but enthusiasts in Germany kept one branch alive, and then a breeding pair made their way to Switzerland, and a whole separate branch up from the Swiss branch was developed. Blizzard comes from the Swiss branch. And each of those, by the way, have achieved their own breed standard now. So Berger Blanc Swiss, or white Swiss Shepherd, is its own breed. So is the white German Shepherd, which the breed is officially called White Shepherd. So, at any rate, with that in mind, we knew what the dog was, and my friend helped put me in touch with the young lady who had to get rid of him because she was 19 years old in nursing school, lost both of her parents, and had to move in with her aunt and uncle. So he didn't come from an abusive background, but he came from a background where he had to be given up by his original owner. And we pledged to take good care of him and make sure that he had a good life. And his owner agreed to give us the dog. So we flew to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and picked him up and brought him back down here. He was 16 months old at the time. He had very basic obedience, like he knew sit and stay, and effectively that's about all. But she had done a good job. His original owner had done a very good job of socializing him with people, and he really liked people. The breed's known for being they're not aggressive. They're not German Shepherd like guard dogs or anything. They're farm dogs basically, and the breed is known for having a real mild temperament. So we observed when we got him just how much he loved people and everybody, and was super friendly. It just seemed like a good fit for him to be a therapy dog. I had a friend who had a therapy dog, and I reached out to her and said, What do you think about Blizzard as a therapy dog? And she said, I believe he was born for this. If you want to train him, I'll help you.
What does that look like?
So the early part of training for therapy dog work is all about obedience. So we got him registered in an intermediate obedience class, and we went. That was with we didn't drop him off. We went like weekly on Saturdays to intermediate obedience. He was a very fast learner at home doing tricks, and I thought when we went to the intermediate obedience, like, he's going to be the best student. This dog is so smart. He was terrible. He was easily the worst dog because he had been exposed to a lot of people, but not a lot of dogs, and he was so distracted. Like when there were other dogs, he would lose his mind. He wanted to play with the other dogs so bad. He was terrible. He was the worst student in the class. I thought he was going to be the best. He was absolutely awful. But nonetheless, we made it through intermediate obedience, and then we went to advanced obedience. And slowly but surely, he's also maturing. He's getting better and better, and he made it through advanced obedience. And then at the end of that, there's an add-on module. Once they're fully under control, there's just a few specific things they need to know to be to be therapy dogs. Like one of the most specific things is like they'd have to really have a good understanding of the command, leave it. So when you go to a nursing home or a hospital, sometimes people are trying to hand out food or pills or something like that. Obviously the dog cannot take that. So leave it means you absolutely cannot have that. And he was razor sharp on that command. Leave it means absolutely not. Leave it.
I need to teach some of my kids.
It's a great command. It's a great, leave it's a good one. So that's one that's important. And they also have to be able to ride on elevators, not be scared of equipment coming down like wheelchairs and walkers and gurneys and things like that coming down.
Just be aware of this
hallways. Yeah. So, and that sounds like it would go without saying, but I had one of the trainers say to me one time, imagine being at the dog's level in a narrow hallway with a gurney coming the opposite direction, and sometimes the dogs don't know what to do, and it scares them. The cool thing is Blizzard, he is so chilled out. Nothing phases him. He's cool with everything. So at any rate, we made it through all that. You go through a testing procedure where a tester observer watches what you do. We went to nursing homes. We went to Home Depot. You interact with people and they're observing, and they have to be able to leave food and things like that. It's literally food on the ground. You walk them past it and they're not allowed to touch it. So once all that's done and they're certified, this organization, there's more than one, but the organization that he's certified by is Alliance of Therapy Dogs. They offer with their certified dogs, they have a $5 million liability insurance policy that goes with that. So long as the dog's being handled properly and you're working, we're literally insured. That's required usually to go into nursing homes and hospitals and things like that. In the case of the hospital, so we like UMMC a lot. Quite a few hurdles to get set up to go there. Like the handler the dog certainly has to be certified, and then they have to have their minimum health requirements through the vet. Nothing major, nothing really outstanding regarding that. Once all that's done and they're certified, then the handler has to do pretty much everything that the employees do, which would be fingerprints, background checks, shots up to date, all that good stuff. So with that in mind, then we got cleared to go to UMMC. And started making visits there, and Blizzard very quickly became like a celebrity, like a rock star when you go to UMMC. And I was thinking when we went up there, like we're going up there to see the patients, right? And we would definitely go visit patients and whatnot, but the employees just go gaga for him. I mean, they just go nuts whenever we're walking down the hall. Anywhere we go, they just stop, and
he's like a white stallion.
He is.
He's
How big is he?
He's a big boy.
Yeah, about 80 pounds, just under 80 pounds, with big white long fur. He's gorgeous. He's a beautiful dog. He's pretty stunning.
He was up at the store one time when I was getting something done up there. Just the most chill, calm, peaceful dog.
Yeah. And you
just feel good around him.
He's just like a magnet for people. So anyway, we started going to UMMC, and you could just walk down the hall and he'd just get mobbed, and we just go from one group of people to the other, and he just soaks it up, man. He's getting all this petting and loving, and it's just great. And then we started going to we literally got asked to go to the ICU floors. So we were standing in front of we were standing in front of the elevator.
They don't even let people in there.
I know. Exactly. So we were standing in front of the elevators ready to go up, and this nurse comes running up to us. There was myself and another, and she said, "We saw you on the camera. We saw you on the cameras. Will you come in the ward for us?" They literally. So we popped down to the ICU ward, and their patients are all out of it, man. They're all behind glass. Nobody's even awake. They're all in coma or whatever. These are seriously ill patients. Right. But what we discovered was the staff that's there, they're lonely. They're all locked on this ward for their full shift, and there's there may be 8 or 10 or 12 of them, but that's the only people I see for the entire shift. They're lonely. They're very lonely. So boy, do they love it when we go visit. And that quickly became my very favorite place. Like we would go straight to the hospital and work all the ICU floors. There's a tower. It's all ICUs. And we'd go to every single one. Man, they put on the dog for us and welcome us in. It was the coolest thing ever until COVID. Yeah. Shut everything down. So all the volunteers basically got the boot from the hospital, so we couldn't go for 2 years. Blizzard totally didn't understand why, because he loved going.
I bet.
Yeah, like why can we not go see all my friends? So for 2 years we didn't get to go. Last year they started to let us back in, but they haven't fully haven't fully removed all the restrictions. We're mostly limited to common areas, lobbies and hallways and things like that, which is okay, but not quite as much fun as it was before. They have started to let us go back to patient rooms on request. So if a nurse or patient specifically says, "Hey, Miss So-and-so in, floor 30 or room 301 would like a visit," then we'll pop down there and visit them. But it's not quite like it was. There was a time when there's a picture if you want to see Blizzard. Yeah. There was a time when, there was a time we just used to have the run of the place. It was like we could go everywhere except the operating room, man. It was pretty neat. Yeah. So it's not quite back like that yet. But yeah, that's Blizzard. That's his story. He is 7.5 years old now. He's slowed down a little bit, but he's still hanging in there. I think the life expectancy for big breeds like that is maybe 10 to 12 years. So he's kind of sort of an old man at this point, but he still gets around pretty good.
Absolutely.
He loves his people. He sure does.
He's a good boy.
Yeah.
He's the goodest boy. One of the goodest boys. All right. So we've talked a lot about the emotional side of Jeff Wall, the interior things. What I'd like to talk about now is a lot of people in early sobriety and even those with long-term sobriety struggle with their weight. They struggle with their outer appearance, and it appears as though that is something that you have kind of taken the reins with, and you've gotten some serious control over. I do remember the first time that I met you, you were considerably larger than you are right now. So if you would talk to us, and we're doing good on time. We're at 45 minutes. We've got about 15, 20 minutes left.
Okay.
So if you would talk to us a little bit about what you have done with yourself on the physical side of your recovery. I know that you post a lot about yoga. We'd love to hear a little bit about that, but what exactly and how have you lost weight? And just tell us a little bit about the physical side of Jeff Wall.
So I recall when I was early in sobriety, I remember him telling me when I was in treatment, like, be careful, because when you quit drinking, you're probably going to notice an increase in sugar cravings. I remember the older guys, which I guess I'm one of them now, but I remember the older guys saying that to, be careful, because you might find yourself craving sugar. Well, boy, did I. So and I also recall hearing, once you quit alcohol, or once you tackle this addiction, you may well have other addictions, other areas of addiction pop up in your life. And again, that's kind of been a recurring theme throughout my whole life. It's like playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
With different,
except now they're positive things.
Right. That's right. I've reversed them a little bit, but I definitely still have an addictive personality, and I have to be careful with what I get into, because I tend to overdo. That's just my nature. But so I did have a love-hate relationship with food, and especially sugary foods, like the kind of stuff that I didn't used to eat a whole lot of before I stopped drinking, desserts I'm talking about and things like that, definitely became a little more prevalent in my diet, and that resulted in me gaining a lot of weight. And so I've kind of had a roller coaster weight. I've gone on diets and exercise binges and all that over the years. And finally, at age 57, I was not at my highest weight, but I weighed about 242 pounds. I'm 6 feet tall, so that is morbidly obese. That's a BMI of over 30 for sure, well over 30. And I went to a wellness doctor, and I remember him saying, like, Jeff, and diabetes runs bad in my dad's side of the family. It's definitely a problem. So alcoholism for that matter too, and cancer. So at any rate, at age 57, my doctor says, Jeff, you're exhibiting signs, pre-diabetic signs. You're on the express train to diabetes. You really have to do something about this. And so I had a friend who I'd watched lose a lot of weight. I say a friend, a Facebook friend, but somebody who I knew professionally, a CPA that worked with my business, who was extremely rotund, like 5'2", and I don't know what her weight was, but she was so fat she was almost round. And she lost 95 pounds in 2019. From the beginning to the end of 2019, she lost almost 100 pounds. Wearing size 4 jeans, which she was big. So obviously what she did worked, and I reached out to her because I kind of reached a breaking point or disgust with myself and just decided I need to do something about this. It's time to address it. At some point, I believe at some point in everyone's life, they're going to have to pay more attention to their health. There's a tendency to flaunt that a little bit when we're younger, but when you get older, it becomes more serious. And if you don't address your health, it eventually it'll kill you. You'll die young, and your last years, your nominal 10 years of life, they call it medically, your last 10 years of life will not necessarily be pleasant if you're not in good health, right? So anyway, I reached out to her, but before I did that, I kind of recruited my wife. I really wanted, if we were going to do something, I wanted us to do it together, and kind of ask her if she would consider listening to what my friend had to say about her nutrition plan. She did, and we adopted it. Ultimately, we adopted a plan. So we changed the way we eat. Basically, in a nutshell, it's definitely reduced sugar, but it's basically smaller portions eaten more often. We eat 6 smaller portions per day, and it's primarily protein and healthy fats with less sugar, and it was very effective. Like I lost 66 pounds in 17 weeks, like 4 pounds a week. I lost 4 pounds a week for 16 weeks straight without exercise. It was all about nutrition. Like I tried for most of my life, I tried to exercise, outrun the fork, they call it, I did triathlons and raced bikes and ran half marathons and did all kind of stuff. So I could eat extra, and it still doesn't work. You have to address the nutrition. When I finally did, the weight just flew off me. And guess what? Now I'm feeling pretty dang good. I've got my nutrition. I won't say I snapped my fingers, but like I was finally getting on top of nutrition, and you just create so much energy and such a healthy aura that now so anyway, exercise follows that. I'm feeling really good, and I got into yoga, and had been exposed to it about 20 years earlier, and learned just a little bit, not very much, but I had a friend who was a yoga teacher who had allowed me to take some of her classes, and I learned from her. So I was a spin instructor at the time, and I actually worked for her, but I took some classes, learned a little bit. Her name is Barbara Nobles, and she's still local here. So I learned a little bit from Barbara, and I went back to yoga. When I was younger, when I was in my 40s, it maybe was a little bit too slow and didn't suit me. That doesn't mean to say it was easy. It's as hard as you want to make it. On the other hand, I wasn't particularly good at it, but I still liked being in her classes. There was something very, very positive about it. When I went back to it this time at age 57 or 58, it really seemed to suit me better at this age in my life. It's really cool. So it's mostly body weight. When I say yoga, yoga is kind of all encompassing, but we're talking about asanas, basically the physical practice of yoga, asanas, I should say. And so with that in mind, I have gotten pretty deep enough to do a yoga teacher training, because I don't do anything halfway, right? I got
true alcoholic passion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I started doing yoga 3.5 years ago. 1,500 classes later, I'm certified as a yoga instructor. Like, what the hell, right? 1,500. Who the hell does that? But
we do.
Swami Wall does that. That's who does
exactly
it.
Right. So yeah, again, don't do anything halfway. But it's been a life-changing experience. It's been pretty cool. So that's on top of the nutrition, and it really does have me feeling good. I mean, good enough to hop in a tub of freaking ice water. How about that?
You took it like a boss, man. I'll say that.
You laid the hammer down, man, all the way down.
I can't believe you guys talked me into that. That's crazy.
Knowing you've already ordered a home kit now.
Right, exactly.
We'll check back in with him in 2 weeks, and he's got 4 cold plunges.
Yeah.
They've recruited everyone that they know, and they have a 30-person
3-phase electricians showing up. I wire it all.
Yeah.
I promise. And well done on that. I mean, you did. You handled it like a boss. For those of you that aren't aware, we invited Jeff to hop in the cold plunge before we started the podcast this morning, because you do get that 2.5 time dopamine release. And we may start a whole nother podcast just on the cold plunge, and we'll see. But Jeff handled it like a champ and just sat right in and
halfway
got
through,
in.
put his arms in.
Yeah, absolutely. So just killed it this morning. So well done on that. And
Thank you.
Congratulations on doing something that's difficult, because it's not easy. It is absolutely not
It's
easy.
not easy
But if you do it for 11 to 12 minutes per week,
in the aggregate.
all of a sudden your things will start to change fundamentally within you, inside your mind. And
I'm very interested in that.
yeah,
That's the kind of stuff I'm focused on now. You know,
Yeah.
that's where I'm at in my life. Yeah.
He's guaranteed to have a plunge and a sauna.
I already have the sauna.
There we go.
I already have the sauna.
red light therapy.
There's some kind of magic cycle you can do between the hot and the cold and the hot and the cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That's not lost on me. Yeah.
Yeah, if you've already got the sauna, I mean, next step is cold.
Well,
I mean,
you can't afford not to get one.
You cannot afford not to get one, and we're super excited to see where you wind up with that. But we are running a little bit out of time, so we're about out of time. Drew, was there anything that else that you wanted to talk about?
I want to hit you with my two favorite questions.
Okay, sure.
What do you do poorly in your recovery?
Oh, poorly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess limiting what I get myself into and overdo maybe is it, like I touched on. I guess I've learned over the years, but I just have to be careful what I get.
Because you go hard.
Right. I have to be careful what I step into. So I'll tell you a quick story. My brother, a few Christmases ago, I'm down on the coast. My family was down there. My brother says to me one Christmas, "Hey, you want to go duck hunting with us next so and so?" And I was like, "No." He said, "Man, come on, you might like it." I was like, "That's the problem." I am absolutely not going duck hunting because I might like it. I do not need another hobby. I fly airplanes, and I do not need to get into duck hunting. So I have to be careful like that. And sometimes I'm not.
I'm pretty sure we're going to read an article about your delivery of a puppy to some aircraft carrier somewhere.
Oh yeah.
All right. What do you do well in your recovery? Your recovery practice.
Okay, so I am very good about getting into routines. What I've learned, and this is probably where I'm harnessing my addictive tendencies for good, because I like this nutrition plan really suited me. Like we started coaching because we had so much success. We've coached a lot of other people, hundreds. We've coached hundreds of people doing this, and it breaks my heart whenever someone doesn't succeed at this. It's because this program works every single time if you do it. If you follow it. It's doctor developed and it's laid out, but some people simply find a reason why they can't. They just find a reason why. No, I can't do that. No, I can't do that. And all these things break the plan. For me, all I needed was a routine. Like, just tell me what to do.
Give me the formula.
Give me the formula. What do I eat? When do I eat it? I can do that. And I'm good at that. Like, I get into routines real quickly. It's exactly how I got so deep into yoga. And
how were you able to switch to the formula and thereby suppress like the urge to, like, I do great from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. After 8 p.m., it's on. It's on with what I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
Fig
Newtons. I mean, nothing's safe.
So,
and it's like I have a different brain at 8 p.m.
Right.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. I'm not even being funny.
No, I know.
Like I feel like if I don't get full, I can't fall asleep.
The same way, yeah.
So there, some of that's habits now, so one of the things our program is good about teaching fundamentals of, not just weight loss, but one of the things that comes to mind, what you're talking about there, you have to learn kind of the difference between physical hunger and mental hunger. So mental hunger is a craving. So if you have a habit of eating fig Newtons for you before you go to bed, or snacking on something before you go to bed, it is unlikely, particularly if you've had a good dinner, it is unlikely that you're actually physically hungry. What you are is craving something.
So how do I combat that? How do I overcome that?
Make up your mind that you're not going to succumb to that. But here's the deal. One way I started being able to, just a few weeks into the program, I started being able to differentiate between physical hunger and mental hunger. And here's how you tell. Physical hunger is builds up slowly and it doesn't go away. It's your body craving calories, and by the way, you're not going to win that battle. You don't need to win that battle. If your body's craving calories, it's craving calories. That doesn't mean, and here's something else interesting. You can take in 150 calories, 100 calories, 150 calories. If your body's craving calories, you can satisfy it with 150 calories or 1,000 calorie cheeseburger, and your body does not care the difference. It's asking for calories. You can give it 150 healthy, 1,000 unhealthy, and both of those will
some grilled chicken or a Five Guys.
Right. So both of those will quench that. That's physical hunger. And again, that's taking care of what your body needs, and you're not going to win the battle. Mental hunger, on the other hand, you can actually ignore it. If you can ignore through it, you can drink a glass of water and not eat anything, and it'll actually go away. You weren't really hungry. It was your brain saying, hey, I'm used to having something right now. So if there's a time, like if just like you said, is snacking before you go to bed, or if there's a time when you sit down to watch a movie in the evening and you're used to having some popcorn or whatever snack you sit down and eat, your brain gets used to. So if you sit down to watch a movie and you don't have that snack, like, dang, I'm hungry. No, actually you're not. It's your brain saying, I'm supposed to have a snack right now.
So the best way to combat that is a glass of water?
Yeah, drink something and ignore it, and it'll go away 15 minutes later. If it's physical hunger, it won't go away. You'll still be hungry in 15 minutes.
I eat so much, I'm never physically hungry.
Right. And that's another key that our plan kind of plays out. Like we live in an obesogenic society. Like we're awash in food, and not healthy food either. There's so dang much food available to us that we have to start deciding what's healthy, what's not, when am I going to eat, when am I going to not. And one of the things I learned, and here's a big mistake I was making, like I would run out the door, I run a business, we're crazy busy, lunch is one of our busiest times. So I would skip breakfast in the morning. This is my old style. I would slam coffee in the morning, not eat anything for breakfast, run into work, get super busy. And then about 11:30, go, I'm a little bit hungry, maybe about time for lunch. And then we have a rush at work, and wham, we just get slammed. And I look up and it's 1:30. I haven't eaten anything all day. I'm starving. It's 1:30, and I didn't bring anything to work with me. Guess what my options are?
Pins.
All bad. They're all fast food. I have no good options. All I can do is run out, grab some crap, eat too many calories, get back to work. That's what I was doing, and then go home, eat too big of a dinner,
to compensate because I didn't eat.
Fall asleep, get up and do it again the next day. Guess that is a recipe for just packing pounds on you, and that's exactly what it did. I had a 40-inch waist, and my waist is 32 now, and so at any rate, I don't ever walk out the door in the morning without knowing what I'm going to eat. I either carry my lunch with me, or of late my lunches are the Fit Chef things that that's right down the street from me, which are worth healthy meals anywhere between 250 and 400 calories. They're not very expensive. That's what my typical lunch is. I have snacks that go in between, but I walk out the door knowing exactly what I'm going to eat all day long. And if I leave my house and I don't know what I'm going to eat when I walk out the door, I made my very first mistake. I never used to do that. Now I don't do that. I know what I'm going to eat all day long, with the exception of dinner when I get home. My entire day's worth of food is either in my hands, in my vehicle, at work, or I'm picking it up at Fit Chef. That's what I eat. I just don't eat. I don't eat fast food. I don't eat unhealthy. I'm not saying I don't snack. And here's the cool thing, Drew. I don't spend any time being hungry. When I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm hungry, I eat. That's it. When I'm not hungry, I don't eat. When I'm hungry, I eat. And I don't stuff myself. I don't gorge myself like I used to. I used to overeat. I'm famous at overeating. I've been overeating my whole life. I learned real young when I was a kid that if I ate real fast, I could actually pack in more food than I needed before my body sent the signal that I was full. Why I felt the need to do that, I have no idea. I don't know if
I'm the same way.
I don't know that there was any trauma or whatever, but I just remember as a real kid, like if I eat fast enough, I can eat more. Why? I don't even know why I wanted to do that, but that's part of that addictive lifestyle. I mean, it pervades my whole life. Food, alcohol, work, hobbies, you name it. I got to be careful. I'm going
to try that.
Yeah.
Drink a glass of water and wait 15
Wait
minutes.
15, yeah.
I'm going to set a timer.
Yeah.
Because Lord knows, man, those goldfish, man, they just disappear at night. I don't know what's going on with that, but big old cup just disappeared. But then we're back at the gym the next morning. And, whoa, I'm going to do that tonight. Well, I did it tonight, so we're going to give give that a shot. So,
good.
Jeff, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, man.
Pleasure.
This has been incredible.
It has.
And I hope that someone has been helped out there. Or
inspired.
Yeah, absolutely. But and also just forward me any information that you want on our resources page that's surrounding you, whether it be Aptiva, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'll be more than happy to put that on the Recovery Resources page on recoveryLabLLC.com. So we are all out of time. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.